stumble upon something incredible from the past, an artefact from the oldest living continuous culture on Earth perhaps, or even a fossil that might be able to help shed more light on life here on Earth, what do you do? How often have you heard about a farmer or a member of the public or, just Joe Blow finding something amazing from history? If you think it's quite a common occurrence, you're right. Some incredibly significant finds have been made, not by experts, but by punters with zero expertise. Almost 70% of Australia's dinosaur species were discovered by non-scientists. Now, we don't have a huge number of dinosaur species in Australia, but that's still pretty significant. But if you are that person, if you stumble on a dinosaur bone in your backyard, what do you do next? And if you find something of heritage significance, doesn't have to be as old as the dinosaurs, but something that's still pretty important to Australia's history and heritage, what do you do? What do you do if you find evidence of Australia's first peoples, like an ancient Aboriginal artefact, possibly tens of thousands of years old? You find it, then where do you go? Well, the woman who's written the book on it and started something called the Found a Fossil Project is here to tell you. Sally Hurst is an ologist blend. Like, reading this book, she's an archaeologist, she's a paleontologist, also something of an anthropologist, and she somehow manages to blend all of those disciplines together. Her new book, Found a Fossil's, out now. Sally, great to have you with me in the studio. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Is it fair that I can call you the ologist of ologists? Because there's a lot of ology in your life.
Absolutely. I haven't heard it before, so I like it. I'll add it to the list.
So take us through how you got into this and how you managed to meld all these disciplines together.
So going back to when I was quite a bit younger, I was finishing year 12 and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was definitely a dinosaur kid and I'd loved ancient history throughout school, but never really thought it could be a real career or something I pursued. But during my gap year, when I was trying to figure things out, I got to travel overseas and went to a number of museums and archaeological sites and just found them so fascinating. And at the same time, I had done my Year 10 work experience at the National Dinosaur Museum in Canberra and really enjoyed learning about that as well. So without so much of this is the exact career I want to do in mind, I was like, these are just two topics I find fascinating. Let's find somewhere I can study both. And Macquarie University in Sydney popped up as somewhere that offered a degree basically in dead people and dinosaurs. And so I majored in Egyptian archaeology originally and paleobiology. And yeah, since then I absolutely refused to choose one over the other, as many people do. So that is how I've kind of accumulated all of my ologies over the years.
So what qualifies as an artefact or a fossil in 2026?
So for fossils, they are generally any remains of an animal, plant or life from a past geological age. So usually tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands or even millions of years old. There's definitely a bit of grey area on how old something does have to be considered a fossil. But even things like Australia's megafauna, our giant wombats and other creatures, they also count as fossils. So usually things from, I think it's the Pleistocene, so about 10,000 years ago, we will still kind of count as fossils, whereas artefacts are specifically related to human history. And again, there's a bit of grey area about how old something has to be considered an artefact. In our minds, we probably imagine ancient Egypt or First Nations people from thousands of years ago, but it can also be 50 years old. We have archaeologists who specialise in World War II archaeology or Vietnam War archaeology and much more modern battles and historical events, but those artefacts still count within the realm of archaeology.
And for you, why should we protect these things?
All of these objects are pieces of a puzzle of the past. For fossils, they really help to tell the story of life on Earth from our very tiny multicellular origins or single-celled origins. And artefacts help to tell the human part of that story. We are so much younger in comparison to the rest of the fossils that we find, but we have packed a lot in to the last few million years of our evolution. And to me, it's absolutely fascinating that we have a record of people, of their lives, of their histories and stories, especially in Australia with First Nations people having a continuous record of this history and with people who still are part of this culture.
You're doing a lot of work in the Indigenous space. Take us through some of what you're doing.
So it came to the realisation that when I was creating Found a Fossil, providing these guidelines on what you should do if you do actually find something, that a lot of the time it might be a fossil, but if you're a farmer and you find something like a stone tool and you maybe haven't seen any of these before, it can be quite hard to tell the difference between what is a fossil, what is a stone tool or other heritage object. So I wanted to provide guidelines on what to do if you found either. They're very different in their formation and significance, and the guidelines and protections covering them are also entirely different. In New South Wales, for example, fossils don't have a lot of protections outside of national parks.
Really?
Yeah. So if you own your farm and you find a full dinosaur skeleton, there's not really anything saying you have to tell someone. We would obviously very much like it for you to tell a museum, a university, a paleontology department so we can go and research it. It might be brand new to science. But yeah, there's not actually a lot of set protections out there, unfortunately. But for First Nations archaeology, there absolutely is. It can even potentially be illegal to pick up and move something if it's a stone tool.
That's hard, though, if you're not sure what it is, right? You're not an expert, so you looked at something. Your natural inclination is to pick something up off the ground and go, oh, what's that?
Absolutely. And for some things, if it's about to be run over by a tractor or something that cannot change, then yes, we want to, move it out of the way, or we need to call the environment line with Heritage New South Wales to say, hey, I think I've got something. But it can be really daunting to know, like, oh God, is it just a rock? Is it a fossil that I am allowed to move? Or, what kind of are the rules? I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get anyone else in trouble. So it can be a bit of a minefield. And the information that's been out there previously online has been really hard to find. The legislation itself is very confusing. Just trying to find a clear answer of what do I do if I find an artifact has been really confusing. It changes depending on what state you're in, what land type you're on, if you own the property or you lease the property, or if there's a native title claim, or so many different little pockets. So Found a Fossil hope to try and make this information a bit clearer and more accessible, so whatever someone finds in the landscape, it will hopefully be protected.
So is there an easy explanation for us in New South Wales for what we should do if we find an Indigenous artefact?
So we do have a New South Wales kind of state government body called, I think they're still called Heritage New South Wales.
Changes every government.
It changes every government, yeah. So apologies if that's wrong. But you'll still be able to find it if you Google Heritage New South Wales. Honestly, again, when I first started Found a Fossil, it took me quite a long time to dig through their website to find who is the exact person or team I contact if I have found something. And once I found that person, they were extremely helpful. But if you, again, are, you're a farmer, you're trying to do a quick Google, try and do the right thing, it was really hard to find. So jump on the Found a Fossil website. It will have the direct emails and links to those teams you need to contact. Hopefully they might be able to verify it through photos, or they'll send someone out to say, yes, this is definitely Aboriginal heritage, or they'll go, oh, actually it's just a rock, you're in the clear. But it's always worth checking because it might be something really exciting and significant. Sometimes it absolutely is just a rock, but it's always worth checking.
And what if you find something prehistoric? I mean, that's my dream. I'm hoping I'm in the tractor at home one day and I go, oh, look, there's a whole dinosaur fossil.
Oh, you and me both. I wish. So again, in New South Wales, there's not really any particular rules on what to do, but contacting somewhere like the Australian Museum is going to be a great bet. They have a team of experts who can potentially either verify your find through photos, or if it is a really big and potentially new or exciting find, they might travel out to your property and run a dig or something like that. So a few years ago now, that happened to a farmer out near Goolgong on a place or a fossil site now called McGrath's Flat after Mr. McGrath, who found it. And yeah, he called the Australian Museum, was like, I think I found something. They went out and it turned out to be one of the best preserved, I think it's Miocene, about 15 million year old fossil sites we have ever found in Australia. You've got fossilised insects which are preserved to such a degree that you can still see the pollen on their faces from where they've been visiting flowers.
See, that's hard to comprehend how that can even happen.
Yeah, it's very rare for fossils to preserve to that level of detail, but occasionally it happens. And again, wasn't found by an expert, wasn't found by a scientist, was found by a member of the public. So our museums would be empty indeed if we did not have contributions from the public.
You're listening to paleontologist Sally Hurst. She's just released a book, Found a Fossil. She also has launched a website, foundafossil.com. If you've found something and you want to know what to do next, it's a fantastic resource that tells you like where you can go and who you need to speak to. You must have been to some amazing places in your career. I know you detail some of it in the book, but it just blows my mind that this career has taken you around the world, but you're still here in Australia doing this and contributing.
Absolutely. I think when I finished my master's, which was how Found a Fossil actually started, I'd been able to do a lot of research and kind of more theoretical studies, but I knew I wanted to go on digs. So I'd been able to go on one in Lightning Ridge in Australia, and very, very luckily, the resident paleontologist on that dig, Dr. Phil Bell from the University of New England, he saw how keen I was and he was like, I help run a dig in Canada. Do you want to come with me next year? I think there's only one answer to that question, so I immediately said yes, and now I've been going back to that site in the Badlands of Canada for the last 3 years. I'll be heading back there in a month, and we find tyrannosaurs and the club tails of ankylosaurs and these massive herds of dinosaurs and dinosaur trackways. Everything you can think of from Jurassic Park, it's kind of like all in this one spot in Canada for us. So there, Mongolia, around Australia, I've been to some incredible places and, yeah, been supported by some pretty spectacular people as well.
The commute to Canada, though, to that dig's a bit more interesting than your average commute.
Yeah, a little bit. 16-hour flight to Vancouver. It's not as bad as the flights to England, which I've done, thankfully. But yes.
And then it looks like you wade through a river to get to the site.
Yeah, so that's one of the sites further north in Grand Prairie in Alberta. Right. But yes, I was there 2 years ago and we're deep in bear country here. So as we're going from the car to the kind of riverbanks where we find these fossils, we're having to yell out, hey, bear, and someone's got a big machete partially for the bushes, but also partially just in case, we encounter some wildlife. Luckily, that didn't happen. But yeah, a lot of these are, riverbanks. They're quite shallow, luckily, but you're just like, okay, I guess we're going in with the shoes on because I can't be bothered taking them off 15 times to get to this river. And then, yeah, you're just kind of handfuls of mud around these giant femurs of edmontosaurs or these big herbivores. And everyone's kind of working on a different bone. And yeah, it was a very novel experience and certainly not a site I've worked at like ever before. If
you've ever wanted to be a paleontologist, I can recommend you looking at some of the photos that are in Sally's book, Found a Fossil, because she's got some amazing shots of her in these locations and also with these giant footprints and bones near her. I've got a question for you on the text line, Sally. Are there illustrations in the book as well?
Yes, so I've been able to work with some incredible Australian paleo artists who have contributed some of their works to the book. So you'll find some Australian dinosaurs in there from Nellie Pease. We've also got some whale and whale relatives from Rory Duncan, who's based down in Victoria. M. Herbert from UNE has given a very lovely illustration of a pachycephalosaur. My partner Jack actually contributed to an illustration of one of the artefacts we got to work on. And then my tattoo artist as well, Ali Choi down in Victoria, she actually designed the cover of the book and contributed a few of those skeletal illustrations inside the book as well.
So are we reading a lot of your master's thesis in this book?
Bits and pieces. I think there's maybe chapter 2 where it talks about the website and the survey. The survey was the bulk of the master's thesis, so you get to read a bit of the results on who would people contact if they found a fossil, why wouldn't they contact anyone. But most of the rest of the book has been kind of since the Masters. So the field work that I've gone on since, some of the incredible teams that I've worked with, just some of my favourite Australian fossils and artefacts from around the world that I've been able to work on or just hear about. So it's a bit of a mix of everything.
Yeah, but it's great. Like, you put all that work into a master's thesis and then you get to use it and put all that work to good use. Is fantastic.
And that was the exciting thing as well, because when I was writing the thesis as well, I was like, there's going to be 6 people who read this thesis. 3 of them will be my supervisors. 2 of them will be the markers who have to read it.
What about your parents?
1 will be my mum. Yeah, that's number 6. And she's, helped me with spell check and things. She's incredible. So that was really lovely. But yeah, part of the reason for creating the website was no one's going to read these guidelines on what to do if you find a fossil in a thesis. So I better make it more accessible, put it on the website. And so now with the book, it's become really exciting to make it even more accessible. Hopefully more people will start to know what to do and tell other people, and hopefully we raise more awareness about how we can protect this amazing stuff we find.
It's a great message too, and I love the part of the book where you talk about with regard to Indigenous artefacts. These are quite tangible objects that potentially could let us appreciate more some of the intangible traditions of First Peoples in Australia.
Absolutely. I was incredibly lucky to have some pretty in-depth conversations with Anawan Elder Steve Ahoy from up near Armidale. And part of it was for a different paper we were writing off, but he just had so much wisdom. And there's a section in the book where we talk about what country means to different people. And he had this fantastic story that, when he goes home, he passes a mountain range or a particular river, or there's landmarks in the landscape that give him that kind of goosebumps feeling of, oh, I'm home. And he was like, where is that place for you? Everyone probably has that, whether it's walking into your front door, going into your garden. For me specifically, on the farm where I grew up, we have a hill. We go up sort of 10 minutes down the road from where we actually live, but it's the first place we see wombats in the area. So for me, that's very much like, oh, I'm home, sigh of relief. And he was like, that's your connection to country. And it just, I don't know, it was a bit of an epiphany and realisation that, that's, I do have a connection to country. And he was like, now, you've been living on that farm, or your family has for 25 years maybe. Imagine how deep that connection is when your family's been there for thousands of generations. And it was just such a moment of, that just makes so much sense. So it was really nice to include that story and a few others and those wise words from Steve. So hopefully other people get that sense of country isn't always separate. I think it's something that we all have a sense of. But yeah, there are other people who have been here much longer than we have who have a much deeper connection than we do at this stage. Yeah,
that's honestly one of my favourite parts of the book, because I think it helps you understand, if you're not Indigenous, that connection to country. It's a lovely part of the book. Congratulations on the Found a Fossil project. It's a terrific initiative, and thank you for wading through all the red tape for all of us to make it much easier. Good luck with the book. Thanks so much for coming in.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
That's Sally Hurst there, and her book Found a Fossil is out now. You can also check out Sally's website. It is foundafossil.com. If you've found something and you want to know what to do next, all the information is there. She's made it very easy for you.